Chapter 35. Since my post was right up against the front of the third deck, if I'd been standing I could have looked down over the edge toward the lowest level of seats. Huddled in my improvised hole, however, I couldn't see those, though I had a good view of the field. This put me high enough to watch what was going on around the stadium, but I also had a route to ground if I needed to try firing my father's gun at Steelheart. The tunnel and the rope farther up the deck would get me there quickly. I'd drop down, then try to sneak up on him if it came to that. It would be like trying to sneak up on a lion while armed with only a squirt gun. I huddled in my spot, waiting. I wore my tensor on my left hand, my right hand holding the grip of the pistol. Cody had given me a replacement rifle, but for now it lay beside me. Overhead, fireworks flared in the air. 4 posts around the top of the stadium released enormous jets of sparks. I don't know where Abraham had found fireworks that were pure green, but the signal would undoubtedly be seen and recognized. This was the moment. Would he really come? The fireworks began to die down. "I've got something," Abraham said in our ears, his light French accent subtly emphasizing the wrong syllables. He had the high point sniping position, and Cody had the low point sniping position. Cody was the better shot, but Abraham needed to be farther away, where he could be outside the fight. His job was to remotely turn on the floodlights or blow strategic explosives. "Yes, they're coming indeed. A convoy of enforcement trucks. No sign of Steelheart yet." I holstered my father's gun, then reached to the side to pick up the rifle. It felt too new to me. A rifle should be a well-used, well-loved thing. Familiar. Only then can you know that it's trustworthy. You know how it shoots, when it might jam, how accurate the sights are. Guns, like shoes, are worst when they're brand new. Still, I couldn't rely on the pistol. I had trouble hitting anything smaller than a freight train with one of those. I'd need to get close to Steelheart if I wanted to try it. It had been decided that we'd let Abraham and Cody test out the other theories first, before risking sending me in close. "They're pulling up to the stadium," Abraham said in my ear. "I've lost them." "I can see 'em, Abraham," Tia said. "Camera 6. Though she was outside of the city in the copper, with Edmund's gifted abilities to power it, she was monitoring a rig of cameras we'd set up for spying and for recording the battle. "Got it," Abraham said. "Yes, they're fanning out. I thought they'd come straight in, but they're not." "Good," Cody said. "That'll make it easier to get a crossfire going." If Steelheart even comes, I thought. That was both my fear and my hope. If he didn't come, it would mean that he didn't believe that Limelight was a threat, which would make it far easier for the Reckoners to escape the city. The operation would be a bust, but not for any lack of trying. I almost wanted that to be the case. If Steelheart came and killed us all, the Reckoners' blood would be on my hands for leading them on this path. Once, that wouldn't have bothered me, but now it itched at my insides. I peered toward the football field, but couldn't see anything. I glanced back behind me, toward the upper stands. I caught a hint of motion in the darkness, what looked like a flash of gold. "Guys," I whispered, "I think I just saw someone up here." "Impossible," Tia said. "I've been watching all the entrances." "I'm telling you, I saw something." "Camera 14, 15. David, there's nobody up there." "Stay calm, son," Prof said. He was hiding in the tunnel we'd made beneath the field and would only come out when Steelheart appeared. It had been decided that we wouldn't try blowing the explosives down there until after we'd tried all the other ways to kill Steelheart. Prof wore the tensors. I could tell he hoped he wouldn't have to use them. We waited. Tia and Abraham gave a quiet running explanation of enforcement's movements. The ground troops surrounded the stadium, secured all the exits they knew about, then slowly started to infiltrate. They set up gunnery positions at several points in the stands, but they didn't find any of us. The stadium was too large, and we were hidden too well. You could build a lot of interesting hiding places when you could tunnel through what everyone else assumed was untunnel-throughable. "Tap me into the speakers," Prof said softly. "Done," Abraham replied. "I am not here to fight worms!" Prof bellowed, his voice echoing through the stadium, blasting from speakers we'd set up. This is the bravery of the mighty Steelheart, to send little men with pop guns to annoy me? Where are you, Emperor of New Cago? Do you fear me so? The stadium fell silent. You see that pattern the soldiers are set up in the stands? Abraham asked over our line. They're being very deliberate. It's intended to ensure they don't hit one another with friendly fire. We're going to have trouble catching Steelheart in a crossfire. I kept glancing over my shoulder. I saw no other movement in the seats behind me. Ah, Abraham said softly. It worked. He's coming. I can see him in the sky. Tia whistled softly. This is it, kids. Time for the real party. I waited, raising my rifle and using the scope to scan the sky. I eventually spotted a point of light in the darkness, getting closer. Gradually, it resolved into 3 figures flying down toward the center of the stadium. Night Wielder floated amorphously. Firefight landed beside him, a burning humanoid form that was so bright he left after images in my eyes. Steelheart landed between them. My breath caught in my throat, and I fell utterly still. He'd changed little in the decades since he destroyed the bank. He had that same arrogant expression, that same perfectly styled hair, that inhumanly muscled and toned body shrouded in a black and silver cape. His fists glowed a soft yellow, wisps of smoke rising from them, and there was a hint of silver in his hair. Epics aged far more slowly than regular people, but they did age. Wind swirled about Steelheart, blowing up dust that had collected on the silvery ground. I found I couldn't look away. My father's murderer. He was here. Finally. He didn't seem to notice the junk from the bank vault. We'd strewn it around the center of the field and mixed it with garbage we'd brought in to mask what we'd done. The items were easily as close to him now as they had been when he'd been in the bank. My finger twitched on the trigger of my rifle. I hadn't even realized it had moved to the rifle. I carefully removed it. I would see Steelheart dead, but it didn't have to be by my hand. I needed to remain hidden. My duty was to hit him with the pistol, and he was too far away for that at the moment. If I shot now, and the shot failed, I'd be revealing myself. Guess I get to start this party, Cody said softly. He was going to fire first to test the theory about the vault contents, as his position was the easiest to retreat from. Affirmative, Prof said. Take the shot, Cody. All right, you slunts, Cody said softly to Steelheart. Let's see if that junk was worth the trouble of hauling up here. A shot rang in the air.